you so much for joining us today. We're first of all, we love the movie
Oh,
so
good.
much, but your background is so very and includes such a variety, lots of genres, obviously drama, horror, more mystery. But what drew you to the opportunity to work on the re-education Holly Singer? Because it seems a little different than a lot of the things you typically work on.
Yeah. Well, ironically, it was what I always wanted to do. Like I am a comedy nerd. I love comedies. That's why like, when I got into film, like my heroes were Kevin Smith and Richard Linklater and Eddie Burns, and like those are the guys that I wanted to be. And I came up through editing, and then when we started making movies, horror movies were the movies that, like, at the time you could make relatively inexpensively. You didn't need a lot of names, and it seemed like a way to be able to, like, all right, we can make something, hopefully sell it, and then we could go make something again. And then what ended up happening is I actually fell in love with the horror community, because we would do these movies and then we would go to, like, horror festivals or horror conventions, and the horror community they're the coolest, nicest, just the greatest people ever. And so we really kind of fell in love with that world. But in the back of my mind, I mean, I did like two horror comedies, and I did notice that, like, when I would make those movies, I'm like, ooh, I'm so much better at the funny stuff than I am the scary stuff. So yeah, so it was always kind of my want. And then luckily, Todd Friedman, one of the writer producers, I was editing another movie for him, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I want to do a comedy, and he was like, I have a comedy. And yeah, he sent me the script, which was at the time called The Re-Education of David Singer. So it was like sort of a male-driven comedy, and it was funny. The premise was there, and I really loved. Like, I'm a big Weird Science fan, and I was like, oh, this is like Weird Science in college, except for we don't make we didn't, like, make the girl on a computer. But uh, and so I kind of pitched him this idea. I was like, yeah, what if we flipped this and we just kind of made it more now? And I was like, what if this is like a female driven comedy, and we just sort of like make the humor a little bit more modern and stuff like that. And he loved that. And so he and Kevin and I just kind of like went and rewrote the sucker, and then that was it. It started it was a quick snowball from there.
So I just love your AFC Richmond like blanket or whatever that is
Yes,
back there.
I'm a Ted Lasso fan. Let me see if I can. Oh, I'm gonna have to scoot over. I got the believe there too. I'm a big Lasso fan. Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
So you were talking about how you always kind of wanted to do comedy. I feel like you worked a little bit of your horror like knowledge into this one. No spoilers, but there is a certain scene with the gym that
Yes.
kind of like leaned into that like
Yep.
horror mystery bit. So I just thought that was great. Were you trying to do that, or was it just kind of like, oh,
No, no, no,
we're
for
gonna make
sure.
this one a
Oh,
little creepy?
always little shout outs to stuff and stuff like that. Yeah, the one of the funniest conversations that I had with Philippe Vanuel, my DP, was like, I was like, we need creepy Sully cam. And he's like, what is creepy Sully cam? And I was like, we have to see through the mascot's eyes that sort of like fuzzy terror of Stu's crew coming at him. And he's like, I don't know how I'm gonna, like, it's just, I always kind of throw him these like things. He's like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but he did it. And it's really like, it's really Philippe like running around with, like, I can't remember what they did. If they cut out eyes, or if they actually put the mask over the camera and he's running around with the head, like a chicken. Literally looked like a chicken with his head cut off running around the set. It was very funny. And then also, we cast Ty Simpkins, who is in all the Insidious movies. So I can't leave my horror roots behind.
I love that scene though. It was just great. And yeah, I was like a chicken with his head cut off as he's like, ah.
It was so fun to shoot. It was probably one of the most fun days, because the stunt guy that was in the costume, when he started doing flips in that costume, I was like, how, like, that was not something that I had scripted. I had scripted like he's like running around from these guys and stuff like that. He's like, what if I did like a side flip? And I'm like, dude, go to town. Go to town. So he was great.
That's wild.
Britt Robertson and Nico Santos play very well off of one another. I love their friendship relationship. Is it something that you guys worked really hard to kind of develop off camera? Is it something that came naturally? And the two of them always the first choice for that role or for their roles?
Yeah, Britt was, like, I think the second person we sent the script to, and like within 2 weeks she had gotten back. Like, I think the first person we sent, they were just like, no, not for her. And so, but I was a huge fan of Britt. I love Tomorrowland. She was in this show called We the People. I think it was like a Shonda Rhimes show. And that thing got canceled. I was heartbroken because she was so good in that. And I was a big fan. So yeah, so she came on board. And then Nico, when we were reworking the script, because originally the character of Polly I think his name was Haas, and he was kind of more of like the Stifler best friend, you know. And I was like, I don't think that would be like Molly's best friend. And so I was like, and when we were working on like the redraft, I was like, he's kind of like a Nico Santos type, you know. And then Nico's team submitted to us, and I was like, oh my god, this is fate. And so yeah, I was like, we must cast this human, and then we got him. And no, their chemistry was like almost instant. We sat down, like kind of met each other for the first time in Atlanta, and the three of us read through the script, and I couldn't. I had to like. I looked like Nick Offerman when he would giggle in Parks and Recreation, where I just knew that this was going to be magical. Like I was like, you know, but I was trying to be cool and hide it, you know. But it was instant. They were just, and they were really good for like, you know, they were really good friends off. Like you could just tell that they loved each other, even off camera, you know.
I love that. And I loved like just in general diverse the cast was, and I loved like, you know, the thing with like, you know, allyship and whatnot in there too. Like there were some great nods to that in those conversations, especially at the end. Nico's
Yeah,
characters talking about pride and whatnot. I was like, yes.
so that scene was written totally different, and Nico and his husband Zeke, they wrote that together. And he's like, "Hey, we wrote this. What do you think of this?" And I was like, "F and A, yeah, man. It was powerful. Like I was like, this is amazing, you guys." So I just what I loved about everyone is that like they did that. Like they brought all these ideas. It was not like just like a job you show up. It was like everybody came and was just like, we want to do this, we want to try this. And I'm like, of course, let's do that. I remember being petrified the first time I did the wardrobe walkthrough with Tora, our costumer, because I went to college in the 90s. My life reference was Dawson's Creek. I was like, we need so much American Eagle. I need more cargo shorts. What is happening right now? And she had come up with these colorful, poppy, crazy outfits that I just never in my wildest dreams would imagine. And she's like, just trust me. And I tell you what, man, the first time they walked on set and you put those poppy colors against that sort of like collegey background, and I was like, she's a genius. I will never doubt her again. And there's so many, like Molly in that bright yellow dress in the green jail is like, I think I have that. I have it on my wall right there. Is like, it's just amazing.
We're big fans of Jaime Pressly house. Like I mean, I'd seen her in things before I saw her in Joe Dirt and My Name is Earl. Like she's actually one of the only actresses my husband could actually name if you were to be. I was like, oh, it was like you know, movie has Jaime Pressly, and he's like, oh, from My Name is Earl. Like, yeah, her.
Nice.
Like, but he literally can name nobody. So, what was like working with her?
She's so great in like, you know, I don't, it's so hard to describe how crazy it is working with somebody like Jaime, because I'm the same way. Like I grew up watching, you know, Jaime and a ton of movies and stuff like that. And she actually was the last person that we cast. And so we had actually originally attached Wendy McClendon Covey from the Goldbergs and from Reno 911, and she was going to be Brenda. And then because the movie got pushed, she had to go back to the Goldbergs, and so we had to sort of pivot. And became one of those just amazing happy accidents, because Jaime came in and then she brought something totally different to the role, and it was perfect, you know. And it was just this, you completely bought her as Brenda, and she was so great with Ty, and then her chemistry with Molly, with Britt. But yeah, Jamie's just somebody that like the amount of polish, like she just shows up and he's like, never misses a mark, never misses a line. You throw her this, you throw her that, and she's just like, everything is just nailed right off the bat. And then you're just like, you just see how talented these people are. It's incredible.
So you were saying that you kind of let, you know, like Nico and his husband wrote some stuff and everybody was really collaborative. I'm a Super Troopers fan. So when I saw Paul, I about died. And I was also really waiting to hear, listen, meow, but he didn't do it. Did
He
you
did
kind
not.
of just did you let him run
But
with like his scenes where you're just like, hey, you're the weirdo in the jail, like go for it, or what?
I could do a whole movie on just his two scenes, the different things that he did. There was one where he has the shoe, and that one of the background like sheriffs walks by, and he like hides it. And there was one take where he like hides it, and then he dive bombs over the bench and like like catapults over the railing of the next thing and stuff like that. And it was just, and he is so funny. Paul's a really good friend of mine. He was in my movie Badlands of Cain, back when we had like zero money to do anything, and he came on board and did it. And you mentioned the Meow. His first day on set, my first AD, who was a line producer on this movie, it was walking us through the blocking and stuff like that. And he tells this background actress, he's like, yeah, so you're gonna come over here and you're gonna land right Meow. And he just had been doing that forever. But Paul happened to be there, and the whole set went dead silent. And everybody looks at Paul, and Paul goes, "My contribution to Western civilization." And he's just so cool. I was at dinner with Paul one night in Indianapolis at a horror convention, and we were at dinner, and this guy walks by us in the window, stops, backtracks, opens the door, yells "Meow," and then runs away. And I was like, dude. And he's like, yeah, all the time.
Oh my gosh.
You can't escape it.
I love it.
This, I mean, this whole film had me cracking up. So like, I hear things like this, and I'm just, this is my hold it together professionally, because I'm laughing so hard commentary.
Oh, good.
But last night I was watching this, and my kids had to come down and ask me to tone it down because laughing so hard, and I had the film up a little too loud, and they were trying to go to bed. But the bloopers at the end are hilarious. What, obviously, when you have actors like Paul saying things like "listen, Meow" or whatever, obviously those are funny moments and together. But are there moments from the film, like scenes that you had that were super hard, either because they were funny or they were touching moments? Do you have any that stick in your mind that was hard?
Well, there was one scene that was really hard to let go of. So we had Wendy Malick, she played Mrs. Zimmerman, and there's a scene, you see it in the bloopers, when Molly comes in, she brings Mrs. Zimmerman her groceries, and she thinks Mr. Zimmerman has died on her couch. And that actually was like a bigger scene where Mrs. Zimmerman makes her tea, and she tells Molly like, "Oh my God, you look so different. Like what's going on with you," and stuff like that. And they have this like great like heart to heart, because Molly's at a very like kind of turning point where she knows that like she doesn't want to go back to work, and she has to break this news to Elliot and stuff. And they have this great heart to heart. The problem being is that she had that sort of scene with Jamie, and then she had that scene with Wendy, and then she has that amazing scene with Nico that had now morphed into something bigger because of what Nico and Zeke had written. And when we got it in the edit, I was like, it's just the same scene 3 times in a row, And I was like, 2 times yes, but 3 times no. And because her connection is so much more important as a character with Brenda and Polly, we had to get rid of that scene, and it breaks my heart because Wendy was so good in it, But that is the way it goes, I guess. Maybe for the DVD.
There you go. So kind of touching on that, but more on like the crazy antic side. So I feel like adult comedies, they love to get stuff in, and there's always the, oh man, I can't believe we got this into this film. What was that for you? What was that scene where you're like, I can't believe they like signed off on this?
Oh yeah. Well, there's definitely like, I think the scene with Polly and Amy in the closet is hysterical. And Nico is he's so funny in it. The way it was, he did this litany of like, I mean, you guys saw in the outtakes, he's like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and he's like doing like all these like names. And I do remember my producer, Warner Davis, coming up to me. He's like, he's got to do one where we don't mention anybody's names. I don't know if we can clear these names. And I was like, I don't know either. So I think maybe there's a take where he's just saying nonsense. But yeah, we ended up, I can't remember, it was Mayor Pete, or I can't remember, Michael B. Jordan. We were just naming all the hottest dudes ever in that scene. And yes, I can't believe that we got away with that.
I'm still with the theme of crazy ants and moments. Do you have a favorite behind the scene moment that's sort of in your memory forever?
Oh man, jeez, yes. There's a scene in the movie where, and it's so funny, where Molly gets a call from Brenda after they've gone out to Stillwater's that first night, and they just take tie out for a night on the town, and Brenda is scolding Molly for ruining her son's life because he's posted it on TikTok and stuff like that. And there's this whole speech that Molly gives about like running home with his tail tucked between his chinos, and it was like I'm very wordy. I don't know if you guys have noticed that or not, but I'm very wordy. So that was like a scene where I definitely had written that monologue. And Britt, like, I think she probably looked at that and was like, "Oh my, what is this word salad here?" But instead of being like, "I'm just gonna make this my own," she like broke that down so well. And I just remember the smile on my face on set because it was all my like most like Kevin Smithiness of like this crazy jarbled word salad in the speech, and Britt just nailing it beat for beat exactly how I had it in my head. And I was like, there's nothing better than that right there,
That's okay. We're a little wordy too, and we're tangent like queens when
Right,
we're
good.
together. All right. So, did any of your own college life days kind of shape any moments in this film?
Dude, there's so many true stories in this movie. My favorite being there's a scene where Molly tells Elliot when they first meet him that she's like, we all have things we want to like forget, like the time the time that Polly got drunk and fell asleep in McConnell Hall and messed his pants up. So I lived in McConnell Hall. I went to Northern Arizona University, and my freshman dorm was McConnell Hall. And it was designed by clearly the same person that had designed the ghosts, the ghost fucking thing in Ghostbusters, because it was an evil dorm. And it was shaped like a Mercedes-Benz like logo, where it was like 3 towers, but the towers also split at each end into different wings, and everything was connected in the middle by the bathrooms. So if you went in the bathroom of one tower and then out another door, not the same door you came in, you went to the other tower and you couldn't get back to your room. And freshmen would constantly be getting lost. Fridays and Saturday nights, kids that had gone out and had too much fun couldn't find their rooms because they go to the bathroom and they go out the wrong door and get lost. That is a total true story.
Oh my God. I love that. Thank God my dorm wasn't like that, because that sounds insane.
How I survived.
Especially if you're like
you would
not
go
all
into
there.
the lobby, and it would just be people sitting in the lobby hanging out because they're like, I can't find my room. I don't know where it is.
All right, our last question is related to games. Obviously, you had the game that you play in the movie, which is very clearly something's played at probably a liberal arts college.
Yes.
Is this something that you made up? Is it one from experience? And what was the craziest game you ever played in college?
So King's Cup was my like go-to. That was my favorite game to play in college because it was like, and it's so funny when you look at the script, because I wrote that Boozcathlon. That was definitely a me thing. We never did a Boozcathlon, but we definitely played all those games. And King's Cup was my go-to because King's Cup is so fun because every suit is like a different rule, and you have to make up rhymes and you have to do these things, and it was so fun. And then my roommates and I had this big glass boot that was just so cool, and we had some great King's Cup competitions at our house back in college for sure.
We definitely had beer Olympic sorority, so
That's so cool.
To all the beer games.
We didn't do that, but we did some other stuff that nobody wants to talk about because that's incriminating a little bit. Well, thank you again, Andy, for taking time to talk about Molly Singer and crazy college experiences with us. We think adult comedy fans are going to love this one. We had a blast with it. I watched it first, and I texted her and I was like, you're going to love it. I'm telling you.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad. And apologies to your kids for keeping them up last night.
Oh, gosh, no. They'll be fine.